A deadly blizzard roared across a lonely mountain highway when trucker Sam Turner spotted a stranded car half buried in snow. Inside was a terrified woman, freezing and alone. He risked his life to pull her to safety, giving her warmth, food, and shelter inside his rig. What Sam never imagined was that this act of kindness would soon change his life forever, because the woman he saved wasn't just anyone. She secretly owned the company he worked for. Snow came down like shards of glass that night, slicing through the beam of Sam Turner's headlights as his rig crawled along the mountain pass. The wind screamed across the empty road, shaking his mirrors, and he could barely see beyond the hood. He had been driving for 14 hours straight, just trying to reach the next rest stop before the storm buried the world. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As he rounded a curve, his headlights caught something, a flicker of red on the side of the road. At first, he thought it was a warning sign. Then, through the blinding snow, he saw it was a car. Its hazard lights blinked weakly, half buried in snowdrifts. Sam's instincts kicked in. He pulled his 18-wheeler to the shoulder, air brakes hissing into the freezing night. Inside the stranded car, he found a woman, trembling and pale. Her coat was soaked through, her fingers stiff from the cold. "Ma'am, you all right?" he shouted over the wind. She tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. "The car? It just died." Sam didn't think twice. "You'll freeze to death out here," he said, helping her out. She hesitated, glancing at his rugged face and heavy jacket with a flicker of fear. Being stranded with a stranger in the middle of nowhere wasn't ideal, but the storm left no room for choices. Within minutes, she was inside the warmth of his truck, wrapped in his spare blanket as the heater roared to life. "Name's Sam Turner," he said, handing her a thermos of coffee. "You're safe now." She nodded, her teeth chattering. "I'm Claire." Her voice was soft but carried something. Grace, maybe, or quiet confidence. The radio crackled with weather alerts. The mountain road ahead was closed. They were stuck there for the night. Sam sighed, knowing sleep wasn't coming easy. Outside, the blizzard howled like a living thing. Inside, the silence between them deepened. Claire looked at him for a long moment. "Why'd you stop?" she asked softly. Sam shrugged. "Someone once stopped for me. Figured it's my turn to do the same." Her eyes softened, and for a second, the storm outside seemed to fade. Two strangers trapped by fate, sharing warmth in the coldest night of their lives, neither knowing that this chance encounter would change both their worlds forever. Hours crawled by, the blizzard refusing to ease. The world outside the truck was an ocean of white, silent, and merciless. Inside, the cab glowed dimly from the dashboard lights. Sam poured another cup of coffee and handed it to Claire, who sat quietly wrapped in his blanket. Her cheeks were still red from the cold, but her eyes, bright and thoughtful, watched him closely, as if studying more than just his face. "Long night," Sam muttered. "Too long," she replied softly. "You saved my life tonight." He chuckled, shaking his head. "Nah, just doing what's right." Truckers look out for folks. Highway can be a lonely place, Claire smiled faintly. "You sound like someone who's seen too much of it." 20 years behind the wheel, he said. "Not much I haven't seen. But this storm, this one feels personal." They both laughed quietly, but beneath the sound was something else. A connection, raw and real. When the wind shook the truck again, Claire flinched. Sam turned up the heater and dimmed the lights, trying to make the confined space feel a little less like a metal box in the middle of nowhere. "Rest if you can," he said gently. "We'll roll out when it's clear." Claire hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll keep watch." Old habit. But as the night deepened, exhaustion caught up with them both. Claire finally drifted to sleep against the passenger seat, her breathing steady. Sam sat there watching the snow batter the windshield, wondering what kind of life she came from. Her clothes, expensive but practical, didn't match the image of a lost traveler. Something about her felt different. Just before dawn, the storm broke. The world outside was buried, but still. Sam stepped out, boots crunching over fresh snow to check the road. He spotted tire tracks under the drifts, faint but leading downhill. Maybe a snowplow had cleared part of the highway. He climbed back into the cab and found Claire awake, rubbing her eyes. "We might be able to move soon," he said. Her smile was tired but sincere. Sam, I don't know how to thank you. Just get where you're going safe, he replied. That's thanks enough. As they rolled down the mountain later that morning, the sun cut through the clouds. Sam thought the worst was over. But when Claire insisted on being dropped at a nearby small-town diner instead of a hotel or gas station, something about her calm composure stuck with him. She thanked him again before stepping out into the slushy street. You take care, Sam Turner, she said, using his full name, though he never remembered giving her his last name. Sam sat there confused, watching her disappear into the snowy distance. He had no idea that the woman he'd just rescued wasn't a lost traveler at all, but the woman whose decisions would soon decide his future. 2 days passed, and the storm that had trapped half the state finally cleared. Sam was back on the road, hauling steel parts toward Denver. The radio hummed old country tunes as snow still glittered along the shoulders of the highway. He tried to push that night out of his mind, the blizzard, the stranded car, the mysterious woman named Claire. But somehow she lingered like a quiet echo. He hadn't told anyone about her. It didn't seem important. Helping people was part of who he was. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something about her wasn't ordinary. Her composure, the way she'd spoken his name, even the calm authority in her voice, it all seemed out of place for someone stranded alone in the mountains. At a truck stop outside Colorado Springs, Sam sat with a mug of coffee, checking his next route on a faded map when his manager, Rick, called. Turner, you're needed at HQ next week. Company's under new review. Some higher-ups are making rounds. Just show up, look decent, and don't mouth off. Sam smirked. Yeah, I wouldn't dream of it. The company, North Hall Logistics, wasn't glamorous. Most drivers complained about low pay and rusty rigs. Sam had worked there for years, quietly, steadily, never asking for more. He was just a man who did his job and tried to do it right. That following Monday, he drove through the city toward the corporate building he'd only ever seen on pay stubs. He walked in, hat in hand, boots leaving faint snow prints on the polished floor. The lobby gleamed with glass and chrome. People in suits brushed past him, barely glancing his way. Excuse me, he said at the front desk. I'm here for the driver review. Name's Sam Turner. The receptionist smiled politely. Yes, Mr. Turner, they're expecting you. Top floor, conference room, B. He frowned. Top floor? That was usually for the executives. But he followed instructions anyway, his heavy steps echoing in the pristine hallway. When the elevator doors opened, he froze. Standing near the window, speaking with a group of board members, was the same woman from the blizzard. Claire. She turned, her eyes meeting his. And in that moment, everything stopped. Gone was the stranded traveler. She wore a sharp gray business suit, her hair neatly tied back, and her presence filled the room. Mr. Turner, she said warmly, it's good to see you again. Sam blinked, stunned. Claire? What are you doing here? A quiet smile touched her lips. I own this company, Mr. Turner, and I believe we have unfinished business. The room fell silent. The other executives watched, confused, as Claire gestured for him to sit. Sam's hands trembled slightly as he lowered himself into a chair. He couldn't tell if this was a dream, a trick, or fate circling back to test him once more. For a long moment, Sam sat frozen, unable to speak. Claire dismissed the others with a gentle wave. The executives nodded, quietly leaving the room until only the two of them remained. The city stretched beyond the glass wall behind her, sunlight glinting off the snow-covered rooftops. She turned to him, her expression softer now. You probably have questions. Sam gave a nervous laugh. That's an understatement. You're telling me you own North Hall? The same North Hall that can't afford to fix half its trucks? Claire smiled faintly. I bought it recently. My father started this company 40 years ago. When he passed, I stepped away for a while. I needed to see what this business had become from the outside, so I went on the road. He frowned. Alone? In a blizzard? Her eyes dimmed slightly. It wasn't supposed to snow that night. I wanted to see how our drivers lived, what they faced. But when my car broke down and the storm hit, I realized how unprepared I was. You showed up before I even had time to be afraid. Sam shook his head slowly, still trying to grasp it all. You mean to tell me That night wasn't an accident? It was fate, she said simply. I wanted to experience the world my company depended on, but I didn't expect kindness like yours. You didn't know who I was, yet you gave everything you could to help me. He looked down at his rough hands. I didn't do much. Anyone would have stopped as she stepped closer. No, Mr. Turner. Not everyone would have. Most people would have driven past. You risked your life in a storm to help a stranger. Sam didn't know what to say. He had spent years unnoticed. Another face behind a steering wheel, another name on a clipboard. No one had ever looked at him the way she did now, with genuine respect. Claire walked to her desk, picked up a folder, and handed it to him. I reviewed your record. 20 years without a single late delivery, no accidents. Do you realize how rare that is? He shrugged. Just doing my job. That's exactly why I want you to do more than that. Inside the folder was a letter, an official offer. His eyes widened as he read the title. Regional Logistics Supervisor. Twice his current salary. Benefits he'd never had. He looked up, speechless. I don't understand. Why me? Claire smiled. Because you reminded me what this company was built on. Integrity, hard work, and kindness. You showed me what leadership looks like when no one's watching. For the first time in years, Sam felt his throat tighten. The weight of endless miles, sleepless nights, and silent struggles seemed to lift from his shoulders. He cleared his throat, eyes glistening. I didn't do it for a reward. I know, she said gently. That's what makes you deserve it. Sam left the office that day in quiet disbelief. The city lights glimmered against melting snow, and the world felt different, brighter, lighter, like the air after a storm. He walked slowly toward his rig parked by the curb, the letter still folded in his hand. He had spent 20 years behind a wheel, unseen, unheard, carrying the weight of 1,000 roads. And now, for the first time, someone had seen him for who he was. When he climbed back into the cab, he sat for a long moment, hands resting on the steering wheel. The world outside still hummed with life, people rushing, cars honking, but inside there was peace. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. Thank you again, Sam. People like you keep the world running. Never forget that. Claire. He smiled, shaking his head, warmth rising in his chest. For the first time in years, he felt proud, not of what he had, but of who he had become. Weeks passed, and Sam started his new position. Gone were the endless, lonely nights on icy highways. He now managed a team of drivers, teaching them not just how to haul freight, but how to carry themselves, with dignity, patience, and kindness. Claire often visited the terminals, greeting every driver by name. No one could tell that she once sat shivering in a snowstorm, but Sam knew. Every time their eyes met, there was a quiet understanding between them, of two lives that had crossed at the perfect moment. One afternoon, months later, Sam stood by the company's training lot, watching a young rookie struggle to chain up a tire in freezing wind. He walked over, smiled, and helped the kid fasten the last hook. Highway won't go easy on you, he said, but it always gives back to the ones who respect it. The rookie grinned. Thanks, boss. Sam looked out at the open road stretching into the horizon. Snowflakes began to fall again. Gentle this time, harmless. He laughed softly to himself, remembering that night when fate stopped him in his tracks. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, he thought, can change everything, even your own life. As he climbed back into his truck, the radio played an old tune, and the sunlight danced across the chrome. He turned the key, the engine roared to life, and Sam Turner rolled forward with a heart finally at peace. The road had always tested him, but that winter night it had also rewarded him, with purpose, recognition, and something far greater. The quiet truth that goodness, no matter how small, never goes unnoticed.